right, hey there. Sam here with you on Wednesday, September 19th. So today we did some polling amongst our Twitter followers, which we often do. And by request there from that polling and the results, we've got a look here at Bitcoin first. Doesn't surprise me. It's just a bit challenging here. And then we're going to also look at Ripple to Bitcoin shortly per that polling. So here we have, there's not a lot of change since the last video that I think was on Monday. So we're still, so here's my primary count. So still operating on the assumption that we have an impulsive move down here. We have had we've had a three-wave correction here now. The problem with it is that it wasn't technical. So we didn't quite make, if I get here, we got up to the 38, which again, it's not that invalidates this as an ABC. It's just unusually shallow for a B wave. So the alternate possibility here, if this is not going to resolve down here and complete a five-wave structure down here, the alternate is that there's a larger ABC underway, so that we might have something like this that would take us up to the 50, and that would complete us, and that would set us up for what potentially would be, per this count, would be a final push down here, and with the first target here would be at 57.94. So that remains alive as an alternate here, and part of that is due to the fact that if we think about this, if this were to be an A wave and this were to be a B wave, so if we just grab from our low here to our high, here, if I can get it on that tick. So we've come to the 786 to the tick. So then had a fairly good reaction. Now we've had some volatility and just some choppiness since then, but that remains a possibility. So this could be the A, the B is in, and now we're going to go up here and challenge the 50. We would need a five-wave structure here. Now that's still, you wouldn't want to see it break this 786. If for that count to stay in higher probability, we'd want this to be our pivot. So we'd have some sort of an A, B, C down here for the proposed B, and then we'd be going up to challenge the 50 for the C wave. Well, that's the alternate count, but I show you that because we have this technical pivot here, right? So it looks to me like it's unresolved. So thus this is my primary count with a target down here at, what is that, 57.81. So if we break into that, let me go down to the 30-minute. And open this up. So here's our pivot that currently now we're calling our B wave here. So from that, we can get a pretty clear 1-2, but then again, it looks like we go 1-2, and now just again, this is just review from what we did on Monday. If this is our 2, well, at some point in here, we need a completed impulsive structure. Well, we could have a diagonal, right? So I shouldn't say that. We could have a diagonal, which, you know, potentially is still in play here because we don't have any resolution here. So we're in a pretty wide range here from, I'll call it 63.90, and our low here is 61.98. So pretty good range there. Well, so we can't find a completed five-wave structure. So I'm counting this one three-wave correction of the 2. Can't get the impulse here, so I get a 1-2. I still don't get a clean 5. You know, I suppose there's a reasonable case for this as an alternate that we have this, right? So this would support the idea that we had an A, B, C was in, thus back to the alternate count that we had A, B is in off of this 5 to complete it, and now we're in some sort of a diagonal maybe to push us out of here, although this is problematic. So you'd have to call this 1-2, maybe A, B, C of a diagonal. So it's still very unclear. So there is no high probability trade here. But on the assumption here that we still have another low to go in, and that what we did here was a 4, and that this is just, we'd have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our third. Remember, we've got to have 5 in our third somewhere. So we're looking here. So if I have this right, so let me open this up here so you can see it a little better. If this is 1, 2, we're looking for our 5th down here of our third, right? So in green here, this would be 1, 2 in the green, 3 still to complete per a 5-wave structure. Well, so far we're okay on that. This move up here, we started to approach the 1, but if we just pull from our 2 pivot, get it right on there, down to our 3 low. Well, what did we do? We went right to Vegas wave and just a toe into the golden zone before we had the move off of it. Yet we remain unresolved down here. So this count stays alive. We've got a 1, 2, 3 A, B, C, right? Vegas wave, golden zone, perfectly technical. So you've got to lean into that more on the assumption that it resolves down here. So that count, so from here we'd be looking at it this way. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, we'd be going down for the 5. So that would finish it. At least we'd have a completed 5-wave structure that we could wrap our arms around so we could identify better where we are. And it eliminates that alternate for this is a B wave and then some sort of a diagonal coming out of here. Now, we can't eliminate that just yet. So first thing we have to do is break this pivot. Right, so if we go back, if we get through the 65, well, then you got to rethink it and think, okay, well, you know, again, is the alternate count in play and we have some sort of a very ugly diagonal getting started? If that's the case, we're going to need a fairly good move up here to challenge some of these prior pivots. If this is going to end up in some sort of a 1, 2, ABC, some sort of a diagonal. But because we haven't broken this yet, and the fact that that was technical from my 2, right, I still have this count very much in play. Right, so again, but even from there, like, so how do you count this? Right, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know, it's too many 1, 2s, or we just can't get anything to resolve. So my view is there is no trade here at the moment. Well, there's certainly no buy here. Right? This could be another sell. So look what's happened here. So we have this confluence here on this pivot. So we're golden zone here. Additionally, if we go from the absolute high to our absolute low of this range, well, we went just shy of the 50. We're just a couple of ticks. So we get into the golden zone. We just missed the 50. We're a couple of ticks in front of the 50. So we have this hot box down here as a target. So we've got good confluence down here. That would I prefer it to see it go down there. Right. Again, this is me as a long-term bull and holding a lot of Bitcoin. I'd like to see it go down here because then I get a better idea of where I am in the count. So this kind of stuff, it's just, how do you count that? What do you do with that? You really can't do much. So if you're not short off of this, you know, I'd have my stop just on the other side of the 1. If you're not short off of that already, you know, there's not really a buy. How do you justify a buy there? Right down here, maybe you can make sense of that. You're late to the party on the sell. Right here was the 50. So I don't see any trade there currently as we sit. You know, maybe scalpers can get in there and do something with this volatility. But until we get some resolution, either we break this pivot or we come down here, I just don't see a trade that's there. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait for some resolution. All right, so then the only other thing here is if I take this back to the 60-minute. Let's open this up here, and then we're gonna get it on auto, and then let's lock our scale. I did notice this, so gotta find it now. Let's see. Hang on. There's my Gann fan. All right, so if I pull here, I'm just going down my 45 degree. So the idea being that we're bullish above, bearish below, right? So that's our 1 by 1. So if we look here, you know, so in Gann theory, right? So the idea we're above the 1 by 1, next target would be up here, which kind of keeps that idea alive that this is some sort of an A, B, and then we'd be going up for the C here. Now let me get that to stop. So, you know, I mean, this is so abrupt and so impulsive that if we start looking at that, you know, the symmetry gets a bit off, right? So this, if we're going to go up, if, you know, again, we don't know what the timeline looks like, but if we're going to go up and challenge that 50 there off of this ABC before heading down, that's a lot of time in that correction relative to the length of time we took to come down here. So that I pause a little bit at that. But as long as this low holds, that stays alive, my assumption would be it would still be corrective, and then it would all just be a setup and a better looking setup for that short, rather than some sort of a that we had bottomed here and this were 1, 2, and we were going up 3. Not that that's not possible. It's certainly possible, but it just strikes me as unlikely because we just have not. So we'd have a very weird truncation, as I showed you last time, right? So that if we're gonna bottom here ahead of this, yeah, it's possible. Sure, anything's possible, but that seems unlikely. So I wouldn't build a trade. I wouldn't be building a trade around that on the idea that this was somehow 1, 2. Right, now, maybe you can make a case for a long with a stop under this pivot because we were so technical at the 786 to the tick. So we're sitting here at 63.36 and our 50 is at 67.50. You know, there's a few $100 there if you want to try and run the long side, but the long side would be, in my view, would be just the opportunity to set you up for the short for one of these targets to get realized. Remember, we have no algo working for us, right? So no. And when I say that, I mean the algo that we can identify. Oh, I've got the scale locked. I'm talking about the algo that we can identify the footprint. So there's no way to build an algo trade around this other than the next short here, right? So the last trade that we can see from a pivot that's significant here is this pivot before we head down and we've gone golden zone. So until we break that, you know, even on these smaller degrees, we can't get behind an algo that would be driving us up. There's just nothing there. So that's just a word to the wise here. I've been there too many times here. So I'd be careful of that. But this is potentially a target, but you're doing it without an algo behind you to give you the legs to get up there. Again, doesn't mean it can't happen. But I'd rather see us tag a target and then look for a reaction off of that. So this sets us up potentially for a double bottom right here off of this. So that still would leave us unresolved relative to the way that I've counted it, but at least we'd be hitting a target, right? So we can look and see, do we get a reaction off of that? Then we know we've got a technical pivot. And again, then the question becomes, are we just putting in the 3 before we go into the 4 to the 5, and all of that still suggesting that there's a 3 to come, still yet a 4 to come, and still yet a 5 to come. So if we're going to go down, so it would look, to put it so you can get a look at it, and this is not a bad idea. So we'd be coming way down here, right? So what does it look like? So that can be helpful. I suppose you might have a truncation in a C wave there, but since we've got one, so we had the ABC here, you know, there's an outside chance that you have something like this here. We just didn't get to the high, but I would defer to this as the start of it. So 1, 2, big 3 down here somewhere. So again, looking at that, we're just measuring. So I would take the length of the 1, projected from the 2, get it right on there. Well, so here's interestingly, so we note we got to the 3, so it's possible that 3 is relative to that 1, 2, right? But we don't have a very good looking. If this were 1, 2 and this were complete, it's kind of hard to finish that because you have this 1, 2. So again, it just until we break this pivot right here, what I have identified as the wave 4 here, it's tough to see anything other than this resolving down eventually. Eventually, right? We're not there yet. So back to the 30-minute here. If we take out this pivot, then we lose the symmetry of this as a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's too big of a 4. So then you'd be recounting. So this count would go off. Then maybe you do have 1, 2. Boy, so how do you deal with this? So it's tough to deal with this move here. And not get this resolved. So even that still, so you see the same problem here. So if this is 1, 2, all right, so grabbing here, if this is my 1 and this is my 2, well, we didn't quite make the high probability zone here on this, but we're certainly here as a contender for a third. We have the subdivision we want to see. But if this starts to move higher, if this takes this out, then we've got to rethink that initial alternate that I suggested, which would be that this is a B wave and some sort of a diagonal is underway here that would push us up for potentially now the C wave before we go back down again. I don't see any decent bullish trade here, and believe me, that's what I'm looking for, and I just don't see it. So I would be cautious on the long side here. I'd be paying close attention to these technical pivots, all of the dominance, right? So here from swing, let's see, I got too much on here for you to be able to see it. So the big one to be watching, here, let's get all this off here, is from swing high to swing low. So if we take this to this, right, so this pivot is technical here. So we get on the other side of, call it 64.51, then potentially the alternate is in play, and this is just an AB, and we're going up for the C. So those are the key pivots to watch. So here, this first one, right to the 50, damn near to the tick. If we get through that 65, we recalculate. All right, guys, that's all I have on that one. That's more just review of anything. So got one more. We look at Ripple to Bitcoin shortly here, so I'll be back in a few minutes with that.